Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Henry. I am here from the Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to Business Bites. Today, we are delighted to be joined by MHA, who are actually patron members of the Chamber. Specifically, we've got David Busey and Brendan Keane, who are going to be speaking today about leading through uncertainty, specifically for strategic resilience for today's CFOs. So before we do kick everything off formally, I would just like to ask that if you do have any questions, we will have a dedicated Q&A at the end of the session. So please put any questions you have in the chat and we will answer them at the end. So that is enough from me. I'm now going to pass you over to David and Brendan. Take it away.
Thank you, Henry. Thanks for the warm welcome. Great to be here. Great to be here doing a Business Bites. It's a new experience for me, so very, very happy to be here. Very pleased to support the Kent Invicta Chamber and Kent and the region. We've got a lovely office down in Maidstone at the moment, and we're constantly growing there, and really keen to support our clients in Kent and beyond, of course. I am David Busey, as Henry mentioned. I'm an audit partner at MHA, which is the UK member firm at Baker Tilly. This is my colleague Brendan Keane, also a partner at MHA. Is also an ESG whiz kid, so he'll be focusing on the sustainability elements of the strategic resilience. What we'll be giving is really very much as the name suggests, Business Bites is a whistle stop tour. So hopefully it'll just trigger a few ideas and a few thoughts around what is now a very volatile and unpredictable environment, something that we haven't been used to for some time now. We had a good 20 odd years of quite stable development, and things have really been turned on their head since. It seems to have all kicked off from Brexit, but it probably actually dates back to 2008 and the financial crisis there that has led to lots of different things happening, geopolitics, inflation, wars, unfortunately, and they have a big impact on our business. As you can see, we'll be touching upon Liberation Day and Donald Trump and the impact that had on businesses, and the need to really work out how we deal with something that is so volatile. Well, someone who is so volatile. It's very difficult. So I'll just do a very quick bit about us, so that you know who we are. MHA are a firm of accountants, tax, audit, and business advisory specialists, and as I mentioned, the UK member of Baker Tilly. But Baker Tilly International is this huge organisation. It's a global network, well over 40,000 professionals in over 140 territories worldwide. It's one of the largest accounting and advisory networks in the world. We're very well supported to support you at the local and regional and indeed national and international levels. We believe that what we do for you today amplifies your ambitions and shapes the successes you'll enjoy in the future, which is why we have this sometimes slightly confusing tag of now for tomorrow. So we focus on now to help you really achieve what your dreams and ambitions are for the future of your business and yourself. We're also all about people, both yours and ours, the thriving relationships we build, whether locally or globally, whether with clients or colleagues, are genuine, productive and fruitful. We want our clients to know and remember us for being fully committed to their strategic goals, for helping them unlock their growth potential, for fostering continuous progress, and for genuinely caring about the impact they make. Without further ado, I'll crack on with the presentation. So yeah, first off, multi-scenario forecasting. It's all about living in this fast changing, unpredictable world. Things that we used to consider stable or becoming more stable over time have been thrown on their head, forcing us to consider a wider range of possible outcomes and even improbable outcomes at times. I don't think anyone really predicted what was going to happen with Liberation Day. To ensure we thought about how to respond effectively to these changes. So it's all about planning for the unexpected. Multi-scenario forecasting helps us to prepare for volatility, whether it's economic, geopolitical, or technological, so we can respond with confidence, not panic. We're a bit pre-prepared, and it is just what you think. It's about sitting down and considering what our response would need to be in multiple different scenarios. Um, Liberation Day, as I've mentioned about 3 or 4 times now, is a really good example of this, where the initial shock of those reciprocal tariffs being announced gave way to confusion over what percentages would be applied to each country, with huge movements in percentages on almost a daily basis. How on earth, as a finance team, do you prepare for that? And using multi-scenario forecasting, companies were able to reallocate supply chains, adjust pricing, hedge FX exposure, and communicate risk clearly in a measured, clear way, rather than in a very reactive, oh, it's 10% now, right? Okay, that means we need to cut costs here, we need to pass on costs there. It was already and prepared and loaded, and that's the gift of multi-scenario forecasting. So this stuff doesn't just work for tariffs and Donald Trump's unpredictability or anyone else's. It really works on a really big range of things that are happening right now. Geopolitical tensions and trade policy, that's not looking like it's going to go away. We just don't know what's going to happen. We've got really major wars in Ukraine and in the Middle East, and they're having a huge impact and impacting trade. It's just the way it goes. We're seeing countries being much more insular, protective, and it's not really the British way. We're typically being freer trade, and we like that. We thrive on that. So it's a difficult place to be, and we need to consider it. We've got interest rates and inflation volatility. Every time we think we've got on top of it, new figures come out. It's here to stay. That volatility isn't going anywhere for the short term. And hopefully it will get under wraps and go back to something that we saw before. But there's a good chance that this is the new normal, and that volatility will be around for a while, particularly while we have all those geopolitical issues. Big one, AI adoption. That's what everyone's really interested in at the moment. Is what's that going to do to my business? How's that going to change things? What workforce will I need in 5 years, 10 years? What sort of skills will they need? Again, hard to predict. So we need to consider different potential outcomes. Climate risk and ESG regulation. I'll leave that. I'll leave that to Brendan later for his segment. We've got tax policy uncertainty. Rachel Reeves, we know she's going to do something, but what? It's starting to look like a wealth tax of some kind, probably on property. But clearly, they've struggled to reduce costs. So tax increases in some shape or form appear likely. And then the classic consumer behavior changes, which has always been difficult to predict. But we've seen big shifts in our lifetimes from high street spending to online spending. And of course, the impact of social media as well on how people spend their money now. So once we start looking at the scenarios, there are several tools we can use to our advantage. Liquidity management is a big one. Making sure we have that cash available. Classic saying, cash is king. But that's especially true when things are volatile. So making sure we have those resources in place. Dynamic budgeting. This ties into having really good data and systems. But if you are able to update things in real time, you can adjust your strategy and keep it aligned in real time. So it requires good systems to be able to do that. Stress testing. So really, getting your forecasts, looking at them, and then going, what if? Let's see what happens if interest rates actually go up, and what can we survive that? What happens to our bottom lines in those situations? Where is the breaking point in our business? What can we handle? What can't we handle? And what do we do if the worst things happen? And then, something that I think is really an interesting one is it's being flexible in our capital structure. So, clearly revolving credit, staggered maturities, making sure not everything's hitting at once. But I think it's really interesting as well how we invest as businesses. So staggering our investment. I was thinking about this myself for an investment we're looking to make in the Crawley area. And it's about how can you do things in modular bite-sized pieces so that unpredictability you can pivot away or from or to. You're not committed to millions of pounds of investment straight up. You can stagger it, and then as things change, you can shift it slightly. So yeah, it all pulls together to be really able to manage those huge, large macro risks, interest rate spikes, inflation surges, and geopolitical shocks, which we've seen can really reshape the financial landscape overnight. CFOs need to be ready, not reactive, where they can be. And you've got all sorts of tools, but hedging offers protection. It's classic old school stuff, but you can use interest rate swaps to lock in fixed costs. And here we get into the tools. It's hard to predict these trends. Are we getting better at it, or are we just getting more technical about it? I don't know, but you can use dashboards like BlackRock's to help anticipate geopolitical risk. They map risk around the world there, depending where you're trading. You've got real-time economic indicators. You've got the high-frequency data, e.g. debit card spending. Signal shifts early, so you can get a little bit of headwind. And then, let's make it work for us, right? So you've got the AI-driven insights. It can detect patterns, forecast outcomes, flag risks. Google Cloud AI is one example. There's loads out there. They're typically bespoke, quite expensive, but the cost will come down. And here we get into data. And data is key, and real-time data is key. Having systems in place, getting a decent ERP that can communicate between your different functions, not just finance, but also all the different operational areas, really unlocks all that strategic work you've done with the forecasting and looking at your stress testing, etc. It means you can make decisions in a more unified way that works for the entire business. You can pivot faster. You can forecast better. It brings more collaboration because more people are involved, and you can really, leverage the smarter availability of AI performance. And that is my, brief whistle stop tour of everything that is resilient and available. It's very much a high level overview. But we can't discuss resilience without discussing sustainability and the role of ESG. And for that, I'll hand over to my colleague Brendan.
Thanks, David. I just want to, I suppose, maybe introduce myself. As David has eloquently put me as whiz kid on ESG. Not so sure, but I'll take that. I suppose I'm based in our Dublin office, part of the MHA group, Baker Tilly. I'm ESG and audit partner. I've worked with clients from listed, large listed entities right down to your SMEs, both in terms of regulatory compliance and also advisory around ESG. So it's a space I'm quite familiar with. And I suppose this presentation will kind of deal with maybe the strategy and how businesses should look at ESG and maybe embed it in within their business. And one that I would kind of flag, let's say we went back in time and electric vehicle cars were invented at the same time as a fossil fuel car, and one engineer was talking to the other, they would have a very interesting conversation. Your EV guy goes, "Oh, I have 200 moving parts in my vehicle," and the fossil fuel guy goes, "Well, I have 2,000," and they look at each other, and the EV guy goes, "Oh yeah, and where do you fuel your car?" "Oh, I have to drive 10 miles down the road to a big forecourt and I fuel it there, and the fuel is mined, or sorry, extracted from the earth and brought there, and all the additional costs with that." And EV goes, "Oh, like just drive home, I plug it into the wall there." And the EV guy goes, what's all the stuff coming out the back of your vehicle there?" "Oh, that they're just emissions. There used to be lead in those, but we're not as bad now." And the EV goes, "Well, I don't have any of that type of stuff." And it kind of brings you to that conversation around when you're trying to develop your ESG strategy. It's about looking at those more probably environmentally. That's an extreme example, and obviously EV may not be the answer to everything, but it does have, I suppose, that strategy piece when you're thinking about your business of what you're going to do and what's the the more logical way maybe to go in terms of developing. And it's all about growth in your business as well. So 1 and 2, we are really good at those things. And again, I'm an accountant, I'm an auditor, really good at compliance, don't fall down around the regulatory side of things. Reporting, absolutely very good at that. We can take metrics, we can measure them, and then we can report on them. But it's the third piece, the integration into the strategy. I think that's where a lot of businesses that I've worked with really struggle. They're very good at the reporting part, but they really struggle on that. They don't identify who their key stakeholders are, be it banks, be it their customers, be it the end users of their products, staff. And that's really where the market has gone now. It's not about the reporting. It's about it's about the second piece. It's about what you're actually doing, how you're actually improving, those ES and G parts within your business, and how that will, and that has a knock-on effect for any business in terms of how they can grow their bottom line, because really it's becoming more and more prevalent. Every large multinationals are asking for that information, even from their supply chain. So it does need to be there, and it can't be seen as just lip service to the whole area, I suppose. So it's to avoid this compliance piece where, and again, most of the businesses I've worked with, they'll have a sustainability department, and ESG is their baby effectively. It doesn't get dealt with by any of the other departments within the business. It tends to be very backward looking because it's a reporting requirement. Sustainability team does it, and it's seen as I suppose a silo of cost. So it's a regulatory requirement, or may not be even a regulatory requirement, but it's something we want to do, but effectively gets siloed into one area of the business. And the sustainability team come knocking for other information that's to HR, to finance, to other areas of the business. It tends not to be very well received, and it's done off the side of the desk. So it's really important to integrate that within your business. It's about looking forward. It's about looking for, well, this is what we're doing now. What are we going to do in 3, 5, 7, 10 years time? And have that roadmap all laid out so that, and it's a tone from the top as well. It needs to come from the leaders within the business, the CFO, the board, whoever it happens to be. It needs to be toned from the top, and they push that right through the business. It becomes, ingrained in the day-to-day. It doesn't become, we have to report on this at the year end. We need to have a report by, 30 days post year end, and there's a flurry of information to be pulled together, and it becomes just a drag on the business. So it's really avoiding that tick box kind of mentality to ESG. So how do you like the integration part in your business is not an easy process. It's not something you'll do overnight. It's something that needs careful planning. As I said, it is that, what are we looking to achieve here? How do we pull the various different departments within our business into this journey? You don't come up with an ESG strategy across the space of 3-6 months. You probably need to develop it over the space of 1 to 2 years. You need to involve, so HR department, what are they looking from this? They're looking to promote the business. They're looking for, talent is always very difficult to get. Staff do look at businesses now and go, well, what is their ESG roadmap? What does that look like? So HR are looking at it, finance are looking at it, because in terms of the cost of debt, banks are looking at more sustainable businesses. There's preferential rate for sustainable businesses. And those are, I suppose, R&D. If your business has the capability to maybe develop certain products or services that are more environmentally aligned, for instance, that will also assist in developing your strategy, and also will assist in developing your market share. What we need to move away from is the mindset where this is just an additional cost. This is where we need to look at how we can benefit the business going forward. So we're looking at customer loyalty, employee loyalty, the brand loyalty, supply chains. And again, you're looking at supply chains across the world, be it war, be it Ukraine, be it the Middle East, different jurisdictions, they can impact supply chains. And if you're not looking down your supply chain to establish these items, you can end up with a risk for yourself for the business going forward. COVID is a prime example. It's slightly different in terms of it was very difficult to predict that supply chain disruption, but it does highlight, though, if there is a gap in the supply chain, it has huge economic consequences for a business. It can put a business under in a fairly short period of time. So in terms of getting that embedded strategy within the business, so first of all, it's aligning everybody to that strategy. So it's including everybody in your team, be it a small team, be it a large team. So include HR, include R&D, the R&D team. Link. Let's say it's decarbonization you're looking for. So it's an easy measure, but how are we actually going to track that over the next 5 years, be it reducing energy costs? So there's a knock-on effect of reducing your inputs versus your cost, embedding it into your business model. So ESG, and again, if you go to a bank with a business plan, you'll be expected to have an ESG plan within that in most cases, and a business case around that part. And it comes, that again, it's that everything you do within your business, you look through it, just a slightly different lens. You look it through that ESG lens at the same time. It's not going to go away. While Donald Trump has kicked the can down the road slightly over the last couple of years, Donald Trump won't be around forever. The world will change. I suppose Ireland, we're based in the EU, there is a strong push on ESG and sustainability reporting. That's been paused because of, I suppose, the Donald Trump effect. But that will pass, and I think businesses, while they potentially further down the road would have more regulatory requirement, I think businesses, if they embed this within their business, they will actually should increase profitability, increase brand awareness and brand loyalty, help with retaining and attracting good key members of staff, incentivization. Incentivization around this should be same as you would incentivize for good results. Let's say, commission based, not commission based, but a more bonus based around ESG metrics, as in how the business has performed around those metrics, because they're all building the value of the business. It shouldn't be, I keep on reverting, it should never be seen as that compliance piece. It really needs to be ingrained within the business and communicate, and that's both internally and externally. If you're doing this, and you may be doing this and not communicating it to the external world, which pretty defeats the purpose to a certain extent. You maybe have a cost saving, but you can also, build your brand externally. Let's say there are certain supermarkets, I can't name any of them, but there are certain supermarkets that are very good at this. They'll promote how sustainable farming, all that type of positive feel about the brand. Whether it be there are other supermarket chains who pay no attention to those, and those ultimately 5-10 years time, those brands will have to change the way they operate, or they will be left behind. So it's a journey. It's not something you will do overnight. Some of the clients we've assisted with, it can take 2 years to build a good program in terms of and it's a deep dive to look, have a real look at the business, look at yourself and go, where are we going? What is our objective? Is our objective to, be left behind, be looked as one of the laggards in our sector, when everybody else is looking at, well, we're the, say, we're the gold-plated sustainability, ESG leaders, and I think that's something that businesses will have to contend with, and it's going to become more and more prevalent over the next 5 to 10 years. But the time to look at it is now, I would suggest. So that is a very, very quick tour through. I know we're right on the timeline there, and maybe. Do we want to throw it open to questions then, maybe?
Yes, perfect, Brendan. Thank you very much, David, as well. Thank you ever so much for your input into today's session. I just wanted to find out from anybody who is here if there were any questions whatsoever. Obviously, we don't actually have any in the chat room, but if you do have any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask away. now is your time to do so. Give it just a moment or so if anyone did have any questions. Perfect. William has just put, there was lots to think about that one, but no questions. And obviously, I completely reiterate what William has said. They're a super informative whistle-stop tour of ESG, specifically within the financial space as well. Lots to cover there, I'm sure of it. And I'm certain both of you could have gone on for much longer on each of these different topics, I'm sure of it. But well done, Brendan and David. That was perfect. Thank you so much for today's session. Like I said earlier, I've been Henry from the Kent and Victor Chamber of Commerce, and thank you all ever so much. Have a fantastic rest of your day.